Scorpio, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Born Without Boundaries, Astrology Motivation. Welcome guys, my name is Michelle, and in this video we're going to review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun for the week of May 30th to June 5th. I've got everything written down for you right here. This week includes a full moon, so we're going to go over how that might impact you guys. Sit back and listen, and please always feel free to comment below because I love to know how this energy is impacting you guys. The more you tell me, the more I understand, the more I learn, the more we share, the more we know. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to start out with the big stuff, the stuff that is going to affect everybody, like the full moon, for example. And then we'll whittle that down to Scorpio specific information that you guys should be focused on, or at least pay attention to. Not that it's a bad thing, it could be a very good thing, but the things that you should know. And then we'll break it down into the decans. And a decan is a group of 10 degrees. Each zodiac sign is a total of 30 degrees, so each zodiac sign has 3 decans. And the reason we divide it into those groups of 10 is because 10 degrees is about that point where the aspects or the angles between your natal sun and the other planets start to change relationships. So within a 10-degree point, it's still going to be impacting or creating about the same aspect. But after that marker, it could be very, very different. And that's why there are so many inconsistencies in regular horoscopes because, well, for many different reasons. I'll probably make a video about that one day. If you see somebody jumping around, this is my little puppy dog Kisses. And yes, this is not my normal environment. I'm actually hanging out in Alaska with my son right now, and I will be home next week. You'll see my normal background, but I'm kind of doing this in transit, so just so that you know if you've recognized the difference. That's why I'm someplace different. So let's start with the big stuff. I mentioned we have a full moon, and it is on the 4th. So the 3rd, 4th, 5th, the moon is going to be in Sagittarius. The full moon will happen in Sagittarius in opposition to the sun in Gemini at about, I believe, 20 degrees. Yeah, 20 degrees Gemini. Let's see. Yeah. No. At about 15 degrees Sagittarius. So full moons happen every single month. And I'm not trying to say this is I find something special about every full moon. I think it is particularly special that this full moon is trying to Chiron. You know, full moons are about release. And a full moon in Sagittarius is 100% about make room for something new, make room for expansion, or being able to grow and expand your emotional capabilities. The fact that it's trying to Chiron in Aries kind of makes me think that there is healing going on here with this full moon, this sense of really finding a way to heal the ways that you have been suffering or find purpose for the suffering or the problems that you've been having. In things outside of the norm. Sagittarius speaks about, foreign countries, foreign cultures, foreign religions, this sense of putting yourself outside of your comfort zones and including around different people to actually get answers and different kinds of solutions that will heal the ways that you've suffered and the ways that you've struggled. And this isn't just for Scorpios. This is this full moon overall. So it should be a very healing full moon in that it will allow us to expand our horizons and get solutions and answers in places that we may never have opened ourselves up to before. But, it's like... sometimes it's not that the doors aren't opening for us, it's that we're not even knocking on them. And anything in Sagittarius encourages you to knock on different doors, explore, and try things that you hadn't normally tried. It's almost like your world can become larger in ways that you didn't even know to ask around this full moon, and it will offer solutions to problems or situations that have really been hurting your heart, hurting your body, especially now since Chiron is in Aries. It's been there, and there's this sense of even physical ailments. It could be that you just needed to knock on a different door. So we're purging all the old stuff to make room for that new. It's a great way to celebrate this full moon in Sagittarius on June 4th. So let's get into the things that Scorpio in particular should be focused on right now. I'm not focused on, but you guys always should be aware. You should always be aware of your ruling dignitaries and where they are. Somehow underlying, they will always impact you. So you have two. I always count the two. I count the traditional Mars and I count the modern Pluto. Now, Pluto is absolutely Scorpionic energy, but Mars is too, if you think about it. Scorpios tend to be very aggressive and very combative and stubborn in their ways, and all of this comes from Mars. You know, they're a warrior. They like a fighter. There's a fire in your belly, even though you're a water sign. That comes from Mars's influence. So let's go over Pluto. Pluto doesn't move much, so it's easy. It's still at Aquarius. It's in retrograde. It will retrograde back to Capricorn, but it's not yet. It's still in 0 degrees Aquarius. It is in opposition to Venus this week, which we talked about a little bit last week. We previewed. Pluto opposite Venus is tough energy. It's no other way to say it. This could bring up dissonance or control power struggles in your relationships. This could also bring up detrimental shit happening with your finances. So this could be a pretty rough passage for you this week as Venus has put herself in the way of Pluto. The good news is it won't stay that long. It won't last that long. It only lasts about a week. So hold on to your hats a little bit in that dynamic. It could just mean not exactly that it's directly impacting your life, but it could be directly impacting your mentality. So if you're a little bit more frustrated or upset when it comes to how your relationships are going and you find yourself a little less tolerant or getting a little bit more aggressive or intense when it comes to anything with relation to value systems in your life, that's this week. That's because Pluto and Venus are in opposition. Pluto is also in a long-term square to Jupiter, has been for a while. The fact that it's in a square to Jupiter in opposition to Venus, everything is going to be exaggerated. Everything is going to sound more extreme and more dynamic. And if you want it, you're going to want to rush it more. And if you don't want it, you're going to be more angry about it. So it is an intense time. Now, by June 15th, which is in about 2 weeks from this reading, Jupiter, the square for Jupiter and Pluto will pass. But until then, there's just a lot of intensity and things are a hell of a lot more dynamic, dramatic, intense, and extreme. Just an FYI. There's also a long-term sextile to Neptune. When I say long-term, I'm talking about 15 years. So what does that mean? Well, it's just amalgamating dreams and illusions, perhaps, but it's also creating from that space, and it's also drawing strength from what has never happened before, or from what was considered just conceptual or illusionary. So it's all about faith when it comes to Pluto sextile Neptune, finding your faith, finding faith in things that are dynamically different, even in some ways kind of accepting death and rebirth again, not running from it, but almost understanding the beauty of it. This is a long-term mindset and how it's impacting us. And I think it will be interesting to see how it pans out. Let's talk a little bit about Mars. So this week, Mars is still square to Jupiter, even though Mars is no longer in opposition to Pluto. It is still technically square to Jupiter because Pluto it moves, but it doesn't move very fast. So Mars has moved out of its realm of opposition, but Jupiter moves much faster than Pluto. So as Mars has moved, Jupiter has actually moved a little bit too. So they're still square to each other. Once again, dynamic extremes. Once again, very punchy, very intense energy, almost cockiness, could be arrogance, get things done. It's very motivated and intense. But with what's happening with Pluto, there could be a lot of arguments. There's just a lot of intensity this week, taking things to the extreme, whether it's happening to you or around you. Because you're Scorpio, you've got something to do with it. It's almost like you're drawing that energy out of people. So FYI, and this week, your natal suns are also square to the South Node. That will be for a while as well. That's been long term. That is, I don't want my comfort zone anymore. Or seeing out external challenges to what you've grown really comfortable with, especially in terms of things that you care about, and through things you care about, it pushing you to change and forcing you out of your comfort zone, which can be very uncomfortable, just an FYI. So Mars is moving between 5 and 9 degrees Leo this week. Pluto will stay strong at 0 degrees Aquarius. A few other things that are impacting everybody, I want to go back to this, is that on June 5th, which is the very end of this week, Venus will move into Leo. At that point, Venus will actually... so stop. Hold on. So the square between the opposition between Venus and Pluto starts on the 1st. Just wanted to clarify that. So this is going to last, that opposition between Pluto and Venus is going to last all the rest of this week from the 1st to the 5th and well into next week, because Venus is just moving into Leo on the 5th. And then she'll be at 0 degrees Leo, and Pluto is at 0 degrees Aquarius. So it's on the 5th that she'll be in direct opposition to Pluto. FYI. But that impacts everybody because Venus is an inner planet. And essentially, where she is just going to impact the dynamic of the love situation. Venus in Leo is very loyal to a fault, but she demands attention. And if she's not getting it, she gets very frustrated, agitated, and upset. And considering there is an opposition to Pluto, there could be a lot of relationship dynamics that get impacted by her egotism at that point. Venus in Leo is not the best position for Venus. She gets to be very egotistical. She gets to be very insistent. Like I said, she is also very loyal and dynamic in her charisma. I think it's a better placement for, financials. She could try to overspend or over-impress. It's just something to be aware of, especially with that opposition to Pluto this week. We also have Mercury conjunct Uranus all week long. Mercury conjunct Uranus is clever stuff. Clever stuff popping off, new innovations, new technologies, and how they're being used by us every single day. So if you start to see repeated patterns of that coming up this week, it's Mercury Uranus conjunction. This happened when Mercury was in retrograde. I don't know if you guys remember it, but now that it's direct, I think we could start seeing some progress or some major announcements when it comes to tech, especially the impacts of tech on our everyday, just an FYI. Let's go into the decans. So you do not need to know where your natal sun is located in order to enjoy this video. I'm going to translate estimates about the correlating birth dates. But ultimately, the best way is to get your natal chart, which is really easy. I'm talking to Scorpios now, so I'm going to assume that you guys already have your natal chart because you guys usually do. But it's really easy. You just need your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location, and then you can get free natal charts all over the internet. You just Google it, and it'll pop right up. Tons of websites that'll do it for you. So if you are Scorpio 1, your natal sun is located between 0 and 9 degrees Scorpio. So overall, if I were to estimate, these are the November Scorpios, and it may include Halloween. Sometimes that's actually going into the second decan. So you guys would definitely you should definitely listen to what's going on in the first and second if you are a Halloween Scorpio. So we have your natal suns are conjunct to the South Node, which is long term, which means they're in opposition to the North Node, which is long term. Most stubbornness happens here in Scorpio 1 when it comes to changing your ways and moving toward the future and getting comfortable with the future. But that's a long term. You also have a long term square to Pluto, which means, once again, challenges with change or dynamic change or such extremes that you're willing to go to or have to be pushed to in order to make change. And then we have a trine to Saturn, which means you're more comfortable doing things by the book, by the book, by the book, by the rules. You don't really want these, like, change in you are not really great right now. And then, of course, a square to Neptune as well, which can be a little self-deceptive. Sun square Neptune can be a little bit self-deceptive, especially when it with regards to change. And are you accepting it? And are you seeing it for what it really is? Or are you forcing it to be what you need it to be because of your comfort levels? And that's something that for the next couple of years, you're going to be challenged with. Now, this week in particular, you will be square to Mars. And by the first of this week, of the 1st of June, you will be square to Venus. So what does that mean? Challenges in your relationships, 100%. Challenges in the masculine feminine dynamics within yourself. Challenges with action, maybe even feeling drained, or that all of these issues or challenges with your relationship or your finances are draining you physically. This will be a kind of draining, challenging week for you. Just an FYI. The square to Mars and the square to Venus, they're both going to pass within the week, a week and a half. But expect the next week and a half to be like putting everything in your face and challenging you. And really, squares are opportunities to get better and become the better version of yourself. But it's going to irritate you. It's going to piss you off. Just an FYI. Scorpio 2s. So Scorpio 2s, your natal suns are between 10 and 19 degrees Scorpio. This usually translates to the first 10 days of November. If that's when your birthday is. So that's from the 1st to the 9th or 10th. Then in about, say up through the 10th of November. Your natal suns are in a long-term quincunx to Chiron, which means probably challenging things, especially physical challenges, are coming up to you or have been for the past couple of years. It will eventually pass. I think those of you who are born probably around the 9th, 10th, and 11th have already started to feel like things starting to heal up in that area, because it's sort of out of that 10-degree marker for you. Chiron is at like 19 degrees Aries, so it's not so much that strong of a quincunx for you guys. But for the rest of you, it's still probably impacting you pretty intensely, especially those of you who are born around I gave you the wrong dates, so I'm sorry. So let's go back. Those of you who are born between like the 1st and 2nd, maybe the 31st, 1st and 2nd, those physical ailments are going to start to heal up. It's those of you that are born around the 9th, 10th, maybe into the 11th of November that are still really feeling Chiron's impact on you right now. This week, though, you have two additional challenges. You have an opposition to Mercury, which feels like your own little Mercury retrograde. Just an FYI, it's just for this week. But especially because Mercury is conjunct Uranus, especially expect interruptions or impacts when it comes to big technology, social media, all those kind of AI and genius inventions really just screwing you up, an FYI, this week. And then you also have a quincunx to the sun, which will pass after this week. But ultimately, that could be ego problems, dealing with other people's egos, clashing with how you feel about yourself. A frustrating week, to say the least, but at least you know it will pass, FYI. And then we have the Scorpio 3s. Scorpio 3s are anywhere between the 10th and the 21st of Scorpio, or the 11th and 21st of Scorpio, basically about the last 10 or 11 days of Scorpio, of Scorpio season in November. It's when your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Scorpio. So your natal suns are in a long-term sextile to Pluto, which means for you, change is something that you're welcoming. You're pretty much going through your cocoon period right now where you want change. You're welcoming change. And there's like just this moral dynamic that says, I'm ready. And you are. This is your time to grow your wings, is exactly what's happening over the next couple of years. there is a long-term square to Saturn, which means, yeah, you're going to be challenging rules and regulations. You're going to be challenging the norm. You don't want the norm. It's conflicting with what you are. This is almost like the coming of age of like challenging your parents when you're a teenager. Not so much that you are, but it's sort of so natural to challenge the norm or challenge what you've been doing for this long so far. So this is a big metamorphosis time for you, and it's been ongoing. So actually good on you, because it's beautiful. There's a trine to Neptune that's long term as well. You guys are really spreading your wings. This is really finding your faith and your soul, and finding what you have faith in, and realizing that, you know, there are things that haven't even been discovered yet that could be better for you than what you have already. So this is a definitely creative period for you, a time when you're basically recreating who you are. We have this week a trine to Venus, which now Venus is a little bit compromised because she will be in opposition to Pluto this week. But for you guys, there's this sense of harmonizing with that and being okay with that, and finding a way to make peace with situations that have been plaguing you, that you have been struggling with, situations with regards to your finances, or how you are valued, how attractive you are, who you're attracted to, or situations with how people treat you, like how valuable people treat you. So there is a harmony there. Trine to Venus is a great time to change your hair, a great time to change your aesthetic, a great time to date, a great time to find value in yourself. So it's a very nice week for you, but there is a challenging opposition to Uranus. This is also long term. I don't think, it's just that you've been getting thrown curveballs that really, they never let you rest. That will be going on for at least another year for you guys. So expect the unexpected at this point, just an FYI. But primarily this week, it's that trine to Venus that you're going to feel, that you're going to especially feel this week. And that can be very, very helpful and very, very beautiful. So you let me know in the comments below. I hope you'll join me over on Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your weekly tarot card reading. I love you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. Let this channel grow over here. I love you, and I will talk to you next week. Bye, Scorpio.